Hi guys, welcome back to Two Sisters at a TV, the classic TV podcast where we talk about all things and everything classic TV. Today, we're going to take another look at the world of music. We were talking about bringing music into this podcast on occasion. I think that's something that we're going to go ahead and start to do on a semi-regular basis. Can't say exactly how frequently, but today we're going to take a quick look at an episode of the Ed Sullivan Show. The Ed Sullivan Show, of course, must-see TV for many, many years. It ran on CBS from 1948 to 1971. It was originally titled Toast of the Town, and it became the Ed Sullivan Show somewhere in the 50s. And again, on Sunday nights, that was the place to be when it came to TV. The Ed Sullivan Show had a little bit of everything for everyone. You could see all kinds of entertainment on that hour-long show. Today we're going to take a look at the episode which aired on November 19th, 1967. This was the episode when the Supremes and the Temptations were on the Ed Sullivan Show together, and they shared the stage, singing one another's songs. Now, of course, the Supremes and the Temptations, very, very successful at the time, had been successful for the past few years. The Temptations were originally known as the Primes, while the Supremes were known originally as the Primettes. And by 1964, they both had broken through and were making really successful hits for Motown. They both joined the label around 1961 or so. 1962, I believe, was when the Supremes joined, and the Temptations joined around 1961. It took a while before they had a hit, either group. I mean, they struggled for a while. They were at Motown, but they just were not turning out any hits. They were making music, making songs, but none of them broke through on the charts until 1964. The Supremes, Where Did Our Love Go? The Temptations, The Way You Do the Things You Do. So anyway, with this particular episode, this was going to be a first. Now, both acts had been on the Sullivan Show before. The Supremes had been on the Sullivan Show many times. I think they were the group on the Sullivan Show more than any other group in the history of the show. They were on the Sullivan Show like around probably 15 times or something, while the Temptations were on the Sullivan Show several times as well. So anyway, you had the groups, they were going to sing one another's songs, and it was something that was really, exciting for everybody. It was a big deal to go on the Sullivan Show. You hit the Sullivan Show, you knew that you were a bona fide star and you'd made it. And so this was just another opportunity for them to be reminded of the fact that they had made it, they crossed over. They were, very successful worldwide, nationwide. So this was a really big deal. Now, in rehearsal, though, they were rehearsing the songs that they performed that night. For the Supremes, they did Baby Love, Stop in the Name of Love. The Temptations did I Know I'm Losing You. And, of course, My Girl. Of course, the Supremes turned it into My Guy. But when they were rehearsing I Know I'm Losing You, which was a top 10 song with the Temptations in 1966, one of my all-time favorite songs, by the way, Diana could not hit the notes. David Ruffin was literally slaughtering her in rehearsals. I mean, he was killing it because David Ruffin, powerful voice. David Ruffin, one of my all-time favorite male singers. If I had to compile a list of my top 5 favorite male singers, David Ruffin would definitely be on the list. David Ruffin and Frank Sinatra for sure. The other 3, I don't know who I would pick, but I would definitely pick those 2 without a doubt. David Ruffin could sing literally anything. He was, I mean, he was a phenomenal singer, and he knew he was a phenomenal singer. That was the problem. Because by 1967, both he and Diana Ross become pretty full of themselves. I mean, Diana Ross, the group had been changed from the Supremes to Diana Ross and the Supremes. Florence Ballard, one of the original Supremes, had been kicked out of the group. She'd been fired, replaced by Cindy Birdsong a few months earlier. Diana, the classic diva in every sense of the word. She was running things in the Supremes and to a certain degree around Motown. Why? Well, she was having a torrid extramarital affair with Motown founder Berry Gordy. In other words, she was his side piece. And so she thought that that entitled her to pretty much anything she wanted in regard to Motown. And of course, he was giving in to those demands. He was pretty much spoiling her, giving in to her, letting her have her way, and she was running wild. Now with the Temptations, David Ruffin joined the group in 1964. That was like I said, that was the year that the Temptations really broke through, began to become successful. They had their first number one hit the following year with My Girl, which David sang lead on. He sang lead on a lot of the biggest hits of the Temptations. And he, by 1967, thought that he was really the top dog of the group. He wanted the name of the group changed to David Ruffin and the Temptations, featuring Eddie Kendricks. Because Eddie Kendricks also sang a lot of leads in the Temptations, and they were, really good friends. So he wanted, to include Eddie in, the new name of the group, but Berry Gordy was not having it. The rest of the Temptations were not having it either. And so he began to, he got enough into a serious, nasty drug habit. He was involved with several different women at the same time. He was married to one, had several girlfriends on the side, including them Tammy Terrell, who was another popular Motown artist, sang several duets with Marvin Gaye. He was also involved with one of Dean Martin's daughters. So he was making his rounds with the women, with the ladies, and he was missing rehearsals, he was missing tapings, he was not showing up for recording sessions. When they would do a gig, he would ride in his own limousine. So he too, very full of himself. So when you got those two together on stage, you knew it was going to be drama. And it was. Diana was so upset about the way things were going in rehearsals. She was having a fit. She was not a happy camper. She was doing a lot of complaining. And David Ruffin really had not seen this side of her because they didn't really work together that much. They were on the same label, but they really, weren't around each other when it came to performances. Now, a lot of this that I'm going to talk to you about, mentioned today, is in a video on YouTube. There's a channel called Ashley Says So. Great channel. She covers lots of old Hollywood scandals. She did an episode on David Ruffin, and that's where a lot of this comes from, along with other books that I've read, articles I've read online. So I just wanted to throw a shout out to Ashley because I am taking some of this from her video on David Ruffin. David Ruffin asked Mary Wilson, one of the other Supremes, like, hey, is this how she is all the time? I mean, is this what y'all are dealing with? And Mary, basically saying, yeah, that's how she is. She's a star, blah, blah, blah. David, I'm not having it. I'm not having this. I'm not putting up with her in this. I'm not spoiling her. I'm not babying her. Not happening. So Diana, again, she and David rehearsing I'm Losing You. David is just killing it. He is, he sang lead on the song. It's his song, and she can't keep up. So she, of course, runs to Berry Gordy, complaining to him, whining to him, oh, David's doing this and David's doing that. So he calls the Sullivan Show, and he either tells them or asks them, I'm not sure which, to change the key of the song. So the band, the orchestra, moves it up an octave higher to accommodate Diana's little thin voice, because Diana Ross had a light, thin voice. David Ruffin, of course, had a strong powerhouse voice, and of course he was not happy about this at all. Ruffin had a fit Basically, you're messing with my song. This is my song. This is our song. And you're messing with me. You're messing with my thing, and I'm not going to have it. So, he didn't really, he kind of, I think for the most part, kind of kept his cool. He was going to get even with her later. And so they kept, doing the rehearsals, preparing, for the show that night. And of course, they hit the stage and, they're doing each other's songs and everyone's looking all good and everything's going really well. Then they get to I'm Losing You. Dinah starts off singing, she's, trying to, like I said, kill it and trying to do her thing or whatever. Ruffin comes out there. Ruffin slayed. And I'm not, I'm not understating the situation here. David Ruffin got out there on that stage and he slayed that song in the higher octave, mind you, because the man can sing anything. And he proved that again that night. He went out there on that stage and he clowned Dianaross in front of the whole country on national television, on the Ed Sullivan Show at that. David Ruffin got out there and gave this loud howl, this scream, and he was out there. I mean, it got to the point, if you listen very closely, she's trying to keep singing toward the end of the performance, but she kind of began to kind of trail off a little bit because she was surprised. He got even with her, and you could tell that the temps were, they were in the background, and they were dancing, and they were moving, and they were enjoying the fact that David had clowned her and had basically embarrassed her in front of the whole country. So he got even with her. He had the upper hand. He won that battle. And of course, Berry Gordy, not happy about the situation. David Ruffin clowned his woman on national television and, he's unhappy about it. And he, goes to David and tells him his grievances. And, he's not happy about this. Don't you ever do this again, blah, blah, blah. And of course, David Ruffin didn't care. David Ruffin was already full of himself. He was already conceited. He didn't care what Berry Gordy thought. He didn't care what Dianaross thought. He didn't care what anybody thought. If anything, he told Berry Gordy that his little side piece was involved with Eddie Kendricks of the Temptations, which I don't think Berry Gordy knew, but David Ruffin definitely gave him the skinny on that. Because yes, Diana was involved with Eddie Kendricks. They were having an affair as well. So she wasn't just solely sleeping with Berry Gordy. She had someone else on the side that she was sleeping with as well. Lots of drama within these two groups. Now, I'm not hating on Dianaross. Let me just clear that up. Dianaross, I've been a fan of hers since I was a little girl. I didn't buy it. My mom bought me a Dianaross doll when I was 5 years old. When I turned 5 years old, one of the main things I wanted was Dianaross's newest single, which was Love Hangover at the time. I wanted that on 45, which she got for me for my 5th birthday. I've always liked the Supremes. I've liked Dianaross in the Supremes. I've liked her outside the Supremes. So I have always been a fan of hers. I still like her music, but as I said before, I love to read, especially about my favorite celebrities. I love to find out the tea. I love to do deep dives into what was going on behind the scenes. And some of the things I found out about Miss Ross were pretty disappointing. To find out just what she really was like and how she could really be, how she could mistreat people, walk on people. That was not fun to find out. And I'm just telling it like it was. I'm just laying it all out there. Not hating on her. I still, like I said, am a fan of hers, actually. But I am expressing and telling you exactly what was going on, was going down as of the late 60s. But, so anyway, long story short, this part of the episode is easy to find. It's on YouTube. All you can do is you can either go to Google and you can type in Temptations Supremes 1967, Temptations Supremes Ed Sullivan, however you want to search it out. You can go to Google and look it up. You can go to YouTube and it's going to pop up. The video is going to pop up right away. It is also, as a matter of fact, on Ashley's channel. She has a link to it. She links the video in the description of the David Ruffin episode, so you can definitely go and you can look at it over from Ashley's page as well. But it's very easy to find. It's a great performance. I mean, it's definitely a piece of musical history and TV history, because this is the Temptations, the Classic Five lineup who were on there that night. Of course, you have the Supremes. The only thing that I must say, it's too bad that Florence had been kicked out of the group. I would love to have seen her be there with everybody else. But of course, Sydney does a great job, as does Mary. It definitely is a performance that is worth seeing. I know you would really enjoy it. So if you like good music, if you like Motown, if you're familiar with these groups like I am, because I grew up on Motown. My mother's a big Motown fan. She passed it on to us. I love, love, love Motown. Love the Temptations. Love the Supremes. If you have never heard of them or you're not very familiar with them or their music, this is a great way to discover it. Maybe you remember that episode being shown that night in November of 1967 on the Ed Sullivan Show. Maybe you were there and you watched it when it originally aired. But it's definitely something you want to check out. If you are not familiar with the groups, or if you are, there's so much good stuff out there you can look up about the Temptations and the Supremes, about the individual members, about the groups. In regard to those members who were on that Sullivan Show that night, only 3, unfortunately, are still with us. Cindy Birdsong, Otis Williams, and Dianaross. Everyone else who was on the episode that night, they have all since passed away. David Ruffin, unfortunately, was fired from the Temptations the very next year. His ego had just gotten so out of control that the rest of the guys were just done with it. They were done with him. They were over it. So they fired him in June of 1968. He did have a solo career, but Motown didn't really promote it. Berry Gordy, I have much respect for him. He created Motown. Motown has made so many of us happy for so many decades. It's still making people happy and will do so in years to come. But Berry Gordy was very shady. He was exhibited a lot of favoritism. He did not back a lot of groups, a lot of artists. He didn't back Gladys Knight and the Pips. Gladys Knight did not want to sign with Motown. And, he really did not support them in their career. They really hit it big when they left Motown in the 70s, went over to Buddha. That's when they blew up. So he did not promote David Ruffin's solo career at all. David Ruffin ended up on different labels throughout his career. He made good music as a solo artist, but with his drug problems, that also was a serious factor in why his solo career didn't really take off and be really successful. He did have a really big hit in 1975 called Walk Away from Love. I remember the day my mom bought the 45. We went to the mall, went by the record store. She bought the 45 along with another couple of 45s as well. She played it all the time. So I am very familiar with the Temptations, David Ruffin. This goes back to when I was 4 years old. The Supremes, again, Dianaross. This goes back to being like 5 years old. So I have a very long history with these people and listening to and enjoying their music. But David Ruffin's career and life began to just continue to go downhill. Unfortunately, he died of a drug overdose in June of 1991 at the age of 50. I remember hearing about his death on the radio. I was absolutely stunned, dumbfounded, heartbroken when I heard that he had died, because I was such a big fan of his and still am. He definitely, people know David Ruffin because he sings lead on some of the Temptations' biggest hits. Beauty's Only Skin Deep, My Girl, I Wish It Would Rain. What's the other one I was thinking about? All I Need. So people know that voice, but a lot of people don't know his name, unfortunately. They know the voice, but they don't know the name, which is a shame, because honestly, his name, he should be much, more known than what he is. He should definitely have been a much bigger star than what he was, with a voice like that, with that kind of talent. And it's just a shame that it did not happen for him, but he made such poor decisions in his personal life and in his career that, it just ended up, doing him a lot of harm. Again, if you want to find out more about the Temptations and the Supremes, there are so many books out there. There are so many videos. Mary Wilson, of course, wrote Dreamgirls, which was a bestseller back in 1986. She wrote a follow-up as well, also did very, very well. Dreamgirls, the movie with Beyonce and Jennifer Hudson, loosely based on the Supremes. The Temptations, they still tour. Actually, they are touring with the Beach Boys. They're doing a couple of dates together because the Temptations are celebrating their 60th anniversary, just like the Beach Boys are. They also did a cruise with the Beach Boys a few months ago. They went to the Bahamas. So, and also speaking of the Temptations, the Broadway musical Ain't Too Proud is going to be back on the road next year. So I definitely recommend going over to Otis's website, going and looking at the Temptations and going and seeing that. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that it's a wonderful musical. It really dives into the good, the bad, and the ugly about the Temptations. Of course, Dianaross is still out there performing. I think she's touring. She was in concert just last month. I don't remember where she was, but she's still performing. She's still singing. So, go and check out all this good stuff. Go over to YouTube. Go to Amazon, eBay. There is a David Ruffin playlist on YouTube of his solo work specifically. So I highly recommend going and looking all of this up, listening to all of this, reading it. Ashley did a video also. She did one on Dianaross. She did one on Eddie Kendricks. So you can check those out as well. But I just wanted to, do something a little bit different. Again, deviate from the classic TV format that we normally do. And again, look at a musical story, if you will, look into music again. This, of course, was a fun episode to prepare for. Very fun to do. Yeah, very gossipy. Lots of tea, lots of behind the scenes dirt. But it all makes it very interesting and very captivating. And that's going to wrap up the episode. Again, the Ed Sullivan Show, November the 19th, 1967. Both the performance itself and the behind-the-scenes drama, most unforgettable. And until we're back with a brand new episode next week, we'll go back to our regular classic TV format. Thank you for joining us for Two Sisters in a TV, the Classic TV podcast. And until next time, we'll see you all then.